Facebook, good morning. We are live. It's Monday. It's market review time. So we're going to go and take a look at main indices. Start where we always start and see what's happened. So interesting one last week. We'll start with the S&P. So you can see here on the daily, we've still got this short-term price action. Price at the moment, or last week, you can see end of last week, we made that new low. So short-term on the daily, we've had this trend line break. Lower highs, lower lows, and again, come back up to the daily 21. So we finished up in this region end of last week. Now, from a weekly chart perspective, because those of you that are following these videos, you know that I will keep a close eye on what the weekly chart is doing. And as you know, I've been looking for a weekly candle close below that 21. Now you'll see, again, here on the futures chart, we didn't quite get that. And as I've said before, just because I get a close below the 21 isn't a reason for me to suddenly short that market. You can see we had that back here, close below the 21, reacted, came back up. So it's not a short trade trigger, but it is certainly something I'm looking for because it's something that the market, both the S&P and some of the indices, haven't done. So if we just do a quick comparison, so we'll start at the S&P there, then we look at the Dow. Dow has had that close, so you can see the Dow has had it, but it's a little bit sideways. And then if we look at the NASDAQ, you can see the NASDAQ as yet hasn't. So one out of the two markets has done it. So the Dow has, Dow futures, but the NASDAQ futures, S&P futures, as yet haven't had that close below. So again, we'll be watching for that this week. So we're not really seeing, if we go back to the daily, we're not really seeing the market, either of these three markets pushing down. Yes, slight lower lows, lower highs, but as yet we haven't seen a significant move down. So short term on this daily, if we can get above here on the S&P, get above these highs, I'll be looking for a move back up. If you look at this on the Dow, it's a similar thing. If we can get above these highs just here, I'll just put a circle in there so you can see it. So those highs there, if I go back to the S&P, you'll see it there. So similar position, we can get above those highs there. And then on the NASDAQ, same idea. The NASDAQ's a little bit higher. So the NASDAQ downward move does look a little bit cleaner on the daily, but as yet hasn't got that close below the weekly 21. So for me, it could be a reaction to that weekly 21, and then if we push back up, it will be these daily highs, specifically the daily 50. But if we do start to get the NASDAQ and the S&P futures getting a clear weekly close below that 21, then I'll be starting to look for a retest of the 50 on the weekly. So if I go back up to the weekly chart, so if we do get that, I'll be looking towards there, and that may offer us some intraday swing short opportunities on there if that happens. But at the moment, neither of those are really making their mind up. So at the moment, those markets aren't really making their mind up. Obviously, we've got the issue with the debt ceiling and that happening, so we'll keep an eye on that. But at the moment, those two not making their mind up. Our short trade on the France 40, so we have got a short trade on the indices here because we got the close and then we got the pullback in the setup. Again, this isn't made its mind up here, but we are short based off of the resistance level, the trendline break, and what has happened in here. So yeah, I am short on the France 40, and again, you can see we had that candle close and then we got our technical setup. You can't see it in here, but we actually got our technical setup. If I go down to the daily in this little area here, but as yet that hasn't moved. We almost got to target, actually. You can see it last week, almost got to target 1, which is these lows, and then target 2 is down at this level here. But you can see we rallied back up end of last week and we were just sitting in there. So again, none of these indices really making their mind up. You can see I can look at any of these. I can go to the DAX. Last week or so they haven't. Obviously the DAX had that nice move previously. The Dow, you can see that had that downward move, but the last few days they're not really making their mind up. So we'll see what happens with that. Oil. So oil here, we had our monthly oil trade. We were triggered long, had a nice trade. We're able to trail the stop up and then got stopped out. So you'll see here oil had a nice move up, but then had a retracement back to that resistance. So if we go and look at the weekly chart, you'll see we broke out. And on the weekly chart, it doesn't look like there's been much happening. Look, we had the positive close last week and price has gone higher. If we go back to the daily chart, you can see here, here's the daily chart. You can see, look, we had that move up. We were long. trailed our stop, and then we got stopped out. You see the daily candle here on Thursday came back, retested the resistance, went a little bit lower, and as you can see, we've gone up. So that's one of the challenges. I didn't get a chance to get those videos that I said I would do out to you guys, but I'm going to do them this week. And one of them is going to be on discipline. So one of the things we're going to be talking about is how short term your discipline as a trader isn't always rewarded. And this is a classic example. Yes, we had a lovely trade in terms of banking. Some guys banked 2%, depending on how they trailed the stops. Some guys banked 4%. So we had a nice trade in terms of its individual result. But what we saw was price come down, stop us out at our trailing stop, and then move up. So you're going to have this when you trail stops. Trailing stops is a really interesting concept from a psychological point of view. And I am going to touch on this week because I've got a little bit more time to get that video out. But yeah, so oil at the moment, we're broken nicely above the resistance. So regardless of what happened to us, we'll go and have a little look at the weekly chart here. You can see we've had that positive candle close last week above the resistance. We've broken the high this week. So at the moment, if I go back to the daily, all clean air, you can see there, squeeze the time frame in. There's really not a lot going on in terms of support or resistance. There's the weekly chart. So I pull that weekly chart in, you can see we've got a little bit of choppy price action in and around this level, around 91 here on the futures. You can see that all there. But in terms of the next resistance high, you've got a zone in and around this level here. So 100 would be, I don't think, any issue. Bearing in mind everything going on with energy prices and oil scenarios. So again, I wouldn't be surprised if we got up there, or at least got into these lows around the 91. But yeah, pretty much clean air. No real strong resistances in the way on oil. So again, that could offer us, bearing in mind we've had that on our monthly trade, but now we're clear of this level, I would consider momentum trades long. So now we've got this clear new high on oil. If we got price pulling back and it met our technical criteria for momentum trades long, so oil would offer up more opportunities. And that isn't me jumping back in because I've been stopped out of our specific monthly trade. That is a different setup. That would be traded in a different account, and that would be very much because it meets that criteria, so we can have that scenario. It's not me jumping back in because I've been stopped out on my trailing stop and I think oil will go higher. That is not how we trade. There's very subtle differences. That can look technical, but yeah, just jumping in and going, oh, well, I think it can go higher, there's clean air, and you've been stopped out of a trade. If that's not part of the plan, don't do it. But we also have momentum-based trades, and oil is showing good potential signs for momentum trades long just there. So again, as oil prices go up, energy prices go up, at least there's potentially the opportunity to profit a little bit from that. And I'll be going into the trading room at 9 this morning, and we'll be discussing that with all the other potential swing trades that we've got. Gold and silver, quick look at these. Again, not really doing a lot here. As you can see, we had a little bit of a move back into the 21 moving average here on the daily. Some of our guys had a momentum short trade here. May still be in it, may have been stopped out. It's not a trade that I would have taken because I would have wanted a slightly better low just there. But that could have been a trade some of the guys had. But again, it's not really making its mind up here, gold. Not a lot to report. I'll have a look at silver. Silver, however, has had a little reaction to, if I go down to the weekly chart, to this mid-level. You can see if I just pop that back in there, just there, what we would call this mid-level. So it is an area of support. The last time we were here, we bounced, and you can see price has reacted to that off that level just there. If I go down to the daily, for me, however, before I would consider a trade, I would need price to push on a little bit and get above this trend line that you can see here. So no trade, against the trend setup here because the level's too mid. But if we get the trend line break, I could be on for a trade in there. So we'll have to see what that does. Let's go and have a look at euro and pound. I think would be good ones to look at. So a couple of the euro pairs could be setting up here. So we've got, again, this level. We've got a flat weekly 200 moving average that price had a small reaction to these previous lows just here. For us to be looking at a momentum trade short on euro, we would need price to prove itself a little bit more. So regardless of what is going on in the markets, for me, I would want price to come a little bit lower, and then we could look for momentum trades short. At the moment, it's not really cleared this moving average or cleared this level. Now, yes, that moving average is flat, but you can see, look, in the past reacts to that weekly 200. It's not really made its mind up just here, and you can see that on the daily. So we've gone slightly lower. So you can see we've just gone below the that support, just gone below again, but it's still, for me, to be trading anything momentum based short, I would need price to get clear of that level and give us a decent weekly close below that mid-level support and that weekly 200 that I've just showed you. So at the moment, it's not really clear. So there's no real trade in here. It's not at a decent enough level to trade counter trend. It would need to, as I've said, be above the trend line before I would consider anything there. And it's not really in the right position for a momentum-based trade. It needs to get that little bit lower. So this is what we would call no man's land in here. It just needs to move in either direction. So again, if this was a strong enough support at an extended enough level, then we would consider what we would call an against the trend setup or a counter trend setup, but it's not. So this is really no man's land for us. So it's got to prove itself above where that trend line would be in here, or it's got to go lower. All right, so yeah, fairly neutral on euro at the moment. If I go and have a little look at pound against the US dollar. So you can see, again, these lines in here, this is not a strong level of support. If I show you the weekly chart, as I've showed you before, look, it's a prior resistance where prices reacted to. So you can see the lines in white there. Sometimes I'll have the lines in white just so I can show people in our trading room where those levels are. But in white, I'm not looking at it at a level that I would trade counter trend, whereas the blue levels that we didn't quite make up here, I'd consider a counter trend. So again, same thing with pound here, not really made its mind up. Again, if I was thinking of anything to the upside, I would need to get above these levels, and with this level of resistance there, I'd probably need price in this little gap here for a retest of these highs. For anything momentum based short, similar to euro, I would need price to make a better low because it's reacted, even though it's not a strong level of support, it's reacted to that level there. I would need price to make a new low. So both the same with euro and pound, I would need to see that new technical low on the daily, nice clear low, and combine that with a weekly close below the support and the 200 on the euro, and then I would have potential shorts on there. All right, so that's the wrap up. And I know I said I'd get these other videos out to you, so apologies for that. I didn't do that last week. I will get these videos out on discipline and a couple of other things as well. One of the ones we're going to talk about is how do you prepare for increasing the size of your account. I'm coaching a guy at the moment who is trading with the view of in about a year's time massively increasing his account, and we worked through some scenarios on that. So I thought that would be a really good thing we could do as well. So 2 more videos coming this week, and then I'll be back next week with another wrap up. Trade safe, and I'll catch up with you soon.